Sitting by the Fire, a podcast on ancestral wisdom, medicine, heritage, and transformation by Anna Shoyom.
Hello, hello. Very good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when are you joining us here today. This is another chat sitting by the fire tonight or today. Erica has accepted my invitation. Thank you very much for being here with us. Erica is an ancestral medicine practitioner as myself. And would you please introduce yourself? Because I think you can do it much better than I would.
Sure. So my name is Erica Nunnally. I am currently seated on the lands of the Narragansett in Providence, Rhode Island in the U.S. My people are native to the U.S., so Choctaw and Nansemond primarily. So that's northern United States, and well as parts of Central Africa all the way down, like southern Bantu people. There's also some Irish weaving in there as well, by way of England, all the way back into the Americas. So those are my people. And for my people, I'm actually the keeper of the four medicine ways, which means that I work with folks who are looking to create balance in mind, body, spirit, and nature. So that is the four pillars of wellness, and that is what my people have kind of pushed me forward to take care of and tend. And so across those four pillars, one of the main elements, though, is our ancestors. So working with ancestors to make sure that the medicines that you're tapping into or bringing forward to support those four pillars are actually in alignment with your whole being. It's me.
Thank you. Thank you. I love what you share, the alignment of our whole being and alignment with the earth, with the equilibrium, the ecological equilibrium.
Yeah.
I really like that. I got as far when I was a teen that body, mind, spirit, but I didn't know that the earth is so important in this equation. As I'm discovering that it is, I'm still discovering it.
Yeah.
Listening to you, I am reminded again that I always forgot to say, where are my people from? So
It's all good. Not everyone knows where their people are from, so it's okay.
I know something. So if you stick with us watching, this is another one that you're watching of these chats. Then I'm Hungarian. I'm in Barcelona, in Spain, in Catalonia. And my people are mostly from Hungary. But when I did the DNA reports, there was less than 8% of the Hungarianness in me. So there are Jewish lineages that I claim and belong to. Then there are other lineages from Transcaucasus and other parts of the world. And it's a bit from everywhere, even from the Arabic island, from Lebanon, some very long time ago. So I think this is one thing that brings me to this work, to not belonging in a way to the land. So not feeling this deep connection. Maybe through the language, yes. Just like Catalan people, they're also very close to their native language. And this is where the culture can blossom and live. And also the land, I'm learning. But I don't think that most of us nowadays are blessed with a deep connection with the earth, or we know where we belong on this globe. How was it for you when you were growing up?
Well, my story is very, very probably unusual. Well, maybe not to you, but I didn't grow up in one place. And I think what is really indicative of how much I moved is that my oldest daughter, who had this recording, she is in her 20s now. When she was applying for college, she actually said, "I come from a family of nomads." And so that really struck me. So for me, I was born in the US. I spent 3 months in California before we moved to Japan. And so I was there for 5 years. And then we moved to the Philippines. So I was there for 5 years. And then finally came back to the US when I was turning 11. So it was my first time stepping back on this continent. And we moved to the middle of the country. We moved to Wyoming, which is nothing like the tropics. There were literally buffalo roaming, and it was my first experience with snow. So I became very aware of my connection to the land because of that particular move, coming back to this country and not having mountains and the ocean surrounding me. It just made me feel disconnected. But we moved from Wyoming out to Washington State, and again, back to mountains, back to ocean. It felt very arresting, and there was much more comfort there. So that's where my parents are to this day. And I left and went to college. So now here I am out here on the East Coast of the United States. I am close to water here in Rhode Island, which is great and very helpful. But that level of disconnect, even in my own short life, right? I think it, most of it wasn't necessarily by my own choosing, but I think that's also reflected throughout my history, right? Throughout my lineages, there was a lot of moving, much of it probably not by choice. And so feeling anchored and connected, what I've come to learn through this work with my ancestors, is that I didn't, that to find my sit spot, like that space in the world where I truly feel the alignment, mind, body, spirit, and nature, that I needed to lean back into those bigger ancestors, like the mountains, like, the clouds, particular trees, and recognizing that even trees and mushrooms are connected all around the globe in various ways. So I lean into those things rather than a specific spot. So I'm seated here in Providence, Rhode Island, and I can lean into a tree here and feel its connection and anchor to all of the spaces that I've stepped on around the globe. So that's part of the work for me, is to have learned that from my people and to share that with others who also feel a little bit of that disconnect, right?
I think this connection is one of the main topics of the age that we live in, because this is my experience, and I'm just discovering how the wisdom of mushrooms actually really teaching us that we rely on each other. So it's not only one being, it's really the full ecosystem and psychology, sorry, that you bring in. And while I was listening to you, I was wondering, how is it to discover this I don't belong, but I can belong. If I allow myself to seed deep down. I really like that word that you use, that I'm seated here, but I can feel in that connection everything, everywhere where I once have been.
Yeah.
Maybe in this understanding, the lands are not so different. Maybe the land is the land, and the land is the holding, the land is the bed of connections. And once we recognize one, once we have come to relationship with one land, maybe we have the permission to come to relationship with another land where it can be. And I really wonder always, that's my question. How can we bring the earth back to the equation?
Yeah, that's a wonderful, wonderful question. So I'm going to have to tell a story before I can actually answer that question. Much of my life has been spent in the realm of mind, body, and spirit. Mind, body, and spirit, because I was on a journey to heal myself, right? I suffered from what they call Crohn's disease here in the West. So sort of inflammation that you basically can't escape. And here in the West, to navigate and manage that, you're basically on some sort of drug for the rest of your life. I had decided for myself, and I'm not recommending this for everybody, I had decided for myself that I did not want to be on medications for my entire life, that I felt like that there must be something that I need to be listening to my body in a different way to provide it with what it needs, because I truly and firmly believe that our bodies are trying to be in a space of wellness, and that when we aren't caring for it in the way that it needs, that's often when things can go a little bit sideways. So I came off of all of the medications, stopped going, decided I was not going to go for injections, all of these different things, and started to listen. I did figure out what was causing my unending inflammation, and I can create a flare-up if I want to just show my doctors or anybody else who's curious that there is a way to manage it. And I also learned that, at least in the West, we are very disconnected from our food. We don't, like I had clients who during the pandemic, in 2020, we would get on a call on the internet, and I remember very clearly one person saying to me, "Oh my goodness, do you realize that if you go and you purchase these scallions or these green onions and they have these roots at the bottom, you can cut those off and replant them and it'll grow more scallions." This was new to her. So this is the disconnect. Our food comes from the grocery store. Our bread comes from a package on a shelf. These kinds of things pull us out of our nature, right? So nature isn't just sitting against a tree or noticing the water or taking a hike. That is part of it. But our nature is also our relationship with what we're putting into our bodies, because, like you said about the mushrooms, it's actually all connected. We have this huge illusion that we are separate from this planet, that we are different from this planet, but we actually aren't. We are literally one and the same. So what we're putting into our bodies is what our bodies are going to give back out. So if you look at a package of bread, and the package is like the ingredients is 20, in words long, and they're words that your 4-year-old can't read, it's probably not actually bread. And you probably shouldn't be ingesting it. But if you look at the package and it says, wheat, salt, and water, you're probably going to be a little bit better off, gluten-free, aside. So that connection to what we're putting in, recognizing that what we take from nature to support this body, this mind, and this spirit, that's what comes back out, was really huge. Nature also includes the nature of your relationships, the people that you choose to be around, or, the circumstances that you are choosing to place yourself in, the nature of the content that you're taking in. I'm all for a good, scary movie, but notice what it's doing to your system. Notice how it's shifting your sleep, right? Notice how the news impacts your system. I know we can't completely check out of these things 100% all of the time, but if the news is keeping you from sleeping, then maybe spending more time in the forest will actually be very helpful for you. Maybe taking more time with that cup of tea and really noticing which herbs you are putting in there to help sustain and balance you. Nature ended up being the key ingredient that I was missing. 30 years I sort of spent in mind, body, spirit, and I never quite felt whole. But when I looked at the nature of things, the nature of my relationships with food, with people, with situations, that's what changed everything. So the last thing I'll add to that, the way that I think about it, or the way that I share it with my clients, is that mind, body, and spirit is like a three-legged stool. When you put a stool down that has three legs, if you put it down on the ground, it's going to feel stable no matter where you put it. It doesn't matter if one leg is short. It doesn't matter if the ground is wobbly. That's the beauty of a stool. It's amazing.
Yes.
So, mind, body, and spirit is three legs. And I was like, okay, I'm fine, but something still isn't quite it.
Mm.
So if you take a table or a chair with four legs and you put it down, if one leg is too short, it's going to wobble. If the ground is not level, it's going to wobble. So having that fourth leg, for me, the one that was missing with nature, I was able to see what I needed to shore up in order to actually be completely balanced and to be completely whole. I was able to tell whether or not one of my legs was shorter or longer, or if it was the ground that I was standing on. And this is how I came to figure out where I needed to be in the world in order to connect with the larger landscapes, right? When I found my 4 pillars of wellness, I was able to be seated here in Rhode Island. And from here, I feel that power and that connection that links me out to everything else. But before that, I couldn't do it.
You needed the secret element, the
I
secret
needed it.
ingredient
Mhm.
to be able to,
Yeah.
in a way, emanate and go out to the world, to bring out to the world.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. It's 100%. It's just letting go of that illusion of separateness allows you to find that space of it just, I don't know, everything just opens up and you can feel it. You can step onto you know, I can be in Peru or the US Virgin Islands or in Mexico or wherever, and I can feel, even if I'm not meant to be, say, in the middle of Mexico City, if that's not necessarily right for my systems,
Yeah.
I can now sink a little bit deeper and feel out into that larger field of where I can
Mm.
find safety,
Yeah.
and security, and all of that.
Mm. How did you come to discover this? What if there was any role of the ancestral work in it?
Yeah, my ancestors have been with me noticeably probably since I was around 8.
Oh.
But I didn't have the language for it. I didn't grow up with family who um, talked about ancestors or leaned into that. I grew up in a very Christian household, church every Sunday kind of thing. And I think it's not necessarily, I don't feel like my parents wouldn't have shared this with me. I just think it was lost. It had been severed at some point in our history of my lineages either being forced to move or choosing to move. That type of learning and sharing of information was lost. But around 8 is probably when I first noticed that I could hear the trees. Like literally, I could hear them talking and singing. And so I often knew that if my life was getting really full or really busy and I couldn't hear the trees anymore, that was the indication that I was sort of out of alignment. So I would go and sit, either by a river or with the trees until I could hear them again. And when I could, then I was good to go. And I didn't learn until maybe 10 or 15 years ago that the grandmother that was helping me to hear the trees is a grandmother on, she's basically, she's been with me my whole life. I've kind of known that there was a grandmother with me, but I didn't know who she was or where or anything. But anyway, so she is on father's, uh, my father's father's line, the grandmother over there. Oops, hand gestures. And yeah, so it was probably about 15 years ago that I realized, oh, that's the grandmother who has been guiding me my whole life, who's been sharing and guiding my path in healing and knowing and recognizing sort of the more animist ways of being in relation with the world and with my people. So fast forward from 8, I think it was actually, so I'm a Usui Reiki master teacher as well. So my teacher had written on a little sticky note for me. She's like, Erica, I really think you need to go and speak with this person. And I was like, okay. So I took the sticky note, I stuck it in my notebook, forgot about it. It was just a name and a phone number. And, while I was on my journey of mind, body, spirit, I was in a particularly rough cycle with my Crohn's disease. And I'm sitting there and I said to myself, I think it's time to find another teacher. I needed a new teacher. And at that very moment, I opened up a notebook. I was sitting in a cafe, and that sticky note with the name and phone number fell out. This was 8 years from the day that she had given it. I hadn't done anything. So, of course, given, the day and age that we live in, I decided to try to Google this teacher. I didn't want to just cold call because, who does that nowadays? Nobody just calls without
Yeah, people
checking.
like this on the phone. Who's calling?
Like, who does that? But she's not on the internet, none of those things. So anyway, so I called and I literally said, I'm looking for my teacher. I didn't say, hello, my name is Erica. May I speak with so-and-so? I don't know why, but that's what came out. And she says, well, it's about time you called. So she is the Lakota pipe carrier, and she is the one who really helped me to develop a more formalized language for what I've been doing intuitively since I was 8. She helped me to connect with more integrity and more safety with my people. And at the same time, I was also working with another woman who does a lot of ancestral work. And so I was coming to her sort of through my Irish ancestry. And so those two teachers, those two women, they're probably the first to help me develop my language and to connect with my ancestors in a more intimate way. But also during that, that's how I ended up finding Daniel 4 in ancestral medicine, because at one point I was working with death and fear and the magic of a yew tree, the YEW tree, yew tree. And somehow or another during that drop-in with this tree, one of my ancestors who had a sort of a more tragic death had somehow attached to me. I wasn't even working with my ancestors for this particular thing, but I think she saw an opening. And so I was experiencing dread every morning, and I couldn't figure out why I was waking up feeling so much dread. And so I was just like, I don't know what's going on. So I reached out to both of my teachers at the time. And one of them was like, this is an ancestor. The other one's like, we've got to get her disentangled from you. So we had to do some work to figure that all out. And so it's where I kind of realized I needed something more formalized to keep me safe, to make sure that I'm checking in on my boundaries, because, our ancestors are great, and some of them are really, really well and vibrant, and some of them are like stuck in a cycle of how they passed. So this particular ancestor, it was really important to her. She was trying to let me know. She showed me how she had died. She had basically gathered some seeds, but in her timeline, it was considered stealing. From her framework, the land belongs to everyone, the seeds belong to everybody, the plants belong to everybody. This is how we live and how we sustain communities, and you're one with nature. But in her timeline, it was stealing. And so she was made an example of and murdered quite horribly for it. And so she didn't know if the seeds got back to the family. She didn't know if the family was okay. So I needed to gather seeds. I needed to share stories about sort of communal farming, or communal just being in community with nature, with children, and to pass on these lessons about tending to the land, but also to each other. And then I needed to plant the seeds. And so that, she's fine and she's well now. But my goodness, having that happen and waking up for, over a week in dread and having the same kind of nightmare vision over and over again was a little bit of a wake-up call that, there are so many wonderful gifts to be had by developing deeper relationships with your people. But you want to do it in a way that's safe. And so I came at this, I think, organically. That is the very, very long story to say, to answer your question. I connected with my ancestors organically, and it was, but each stage of my life has been a gift, in revealing sort of that richness and depth that is possible when you reconnect. So again, I don't necessarily, at least in my experience, it's not like I'm blaming my parents or my grandparents for not having been able to share that this was possible in my family, or that this is possible for anyone who chooses it, really. But they leaned into what they knew, and and it was okay. And now, with my relationship with our people, I'm able to share with them, and they see it and hear it and understand it and value it. So
That's one of the gifts,
Mhm.
I think, when we do this work in any way, if possible, the most secure way
Mhm.
that we can share and we can bring back.
Mhm.
I think maybe all of us can bring back some seeds, even if it's not the visible one, but some spiritual seeds or tending seeds. And very curious, because when I was thinking about, we're going to meet, and what would I like to talk to you with? And then it's one topic, and I didn't know why it came up. And now you just said the word, which is community.
Mhm.
And my feeling was, oh, I think we should talk about community, because there is something important. And what you just shared is really arriving to my heart, because, like, oh yes, of course, the community, the belonging, no, with the togetherness that we are we are together in whatever shit we're facing. Literally, it's just no one is out of it. We are all together in it.
Mhm.
And also, I remember that you said that you're seeded, that you're like a seed in Rhode Island,
Mhm.
speaking about the importance of the seeds that doesn't get lost, but they can be
Mhm.
shared with the living family.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
how can we expand our communities? How can you share your gift in a practical way?
Yeah. I mean, I think I can only say this now because I'm of the age that I am now. So when I was younger, I think I had a lot more hangups about what will people think and how will people react. And so I used to almost hide my work, whether it was ritual or energetic, or even like my yoga practice when I first started. It wasn't something that I led with. So I think that people were only getting sort of this edited version of Erica in their relationships when I was younger because of fear, you know? Yeah, I want to fit in the box. I want to fit in. I don't want to. But now, sort of as I'm heading, towards this sort of more elder space of, I mentor people who are on their journeys now, right? I have less hangups. I walk in and I come into spaces exactly as I am with all of the parts of me, and I invite people to figure it out. You know?
Figure it out for you. Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, this is who I am, and parts of me are going to resonate with you, and parts are not, right? And that's okay. I'm fine either way. But I think that coming to every space as in all of our fullness is actually the best way to break through that illusion of separateness, right? I mean, I was separating not just, the more that we compartmentalize ourselves, I think the more we compartmentalize who we're relating with and who we think we can relate with and so on and so forth, it limits us, right? So now I'm just I encourage people, if you're feeling, you know, lonely or or you have a burning question about something and you think it's going to be too weird to ask, that's the one to bring forward. That's when to reach out. Right? There are all kinds of wild and wonderful ways for us to connect now, but it doesn't necessarily feel as though we're doing it, right?
Maybe we're done. Maybe there are some things that I do us in a way. Like inhabiting the body, the mind, the spirit, and the us together. Maybe it's not only us who are actually acting through
Right.
these movements or moments or connections. Maybe we're some kind of channels.
Exactly. And so if we don't reach out and if we don't bring our whole selves, then I think that we're actually doing a disservice to the folks around us who might need that one thing, that one like quirk about you or me that, we're kind of keeping back here.
I don't. It's mine.
Yeah.
Gabor Mate, one of my teachers, says that that's the joy of hiding,
Mm.
the pain of not being found.
Exactly. Oh, that's it. Exactly. Precisely.
And then I know that as well. I think there are some similarities in that way in our journeys. The how can I shape myself to fit in wherever I need to? So like a little chameleon bee
Yes.
art, like that very quick and alarmed way of scanning what is safe, what is not safe, how to behave, how not to behave. And the difficulty is when you first going to speak in my name now, when I explored it, okay, I can be other ways. Then comes the guilt, the displease, all the thing that you see that, wow, this is a very complicated word. So many people expecting so many things from each other, me, myself as well, from the others. So for me, first, the solution was, okay, how can I start to take myself out in a way, like not imposing things, not assuming things, but bring in curiosity as maybe a superpower. We can say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I
100.
think that's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I expect a no, I can still ask and maybe I can be surprised.
Yeah.
So it's like just leaving a room for something that maybe is bigger. Doesn't need to fit in these human conditions or human view or human language. Impossible. No, I think what you explained that you find the language later, how to describe the thing that you were living first. I think this is something that I'm going to risk that everyone knows something around that. Everyone who was born in a human body and has the power of recognition of, oh, something is going on, but I don't quite know what's that. So I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want to look stupid.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's I say to people all the time that fear is literally just the byproduct of not knowing something.
Yeah.
So be curious and choose to try to know something, right? And then there's nothing to be afraid of anymore, right? So the example could be, uh,
Yeah.
that we're designed as humans to, like you said, scan. We're always scanning for threats. That's where we start. That's our baseline, right? But maybe instead start practicing scanning for bright spots, scan for connections, scan
Yeah.
for smiles, scan for like windows and openings that, might lead to something really new and beautiful and rich. And it's a practice and it's scary and it doesn't always work, but being afraid, that doesn't get us anywhere either, you know?
No, no. I
So,
think I think fear is a biological necessity also. We can
mm,
say that. That's
yeah,
how we learned. That's how we stayed alive. That's how our
e-
ancestors stayed alive.
exactly.
But it doesn't mean that we need to be closed in just one condition and there is nothing outside of it. So that's the famous comfort zone. That's the famous practices that we like to keep, even if we know that it's not healthy.
Right.
And we do that. I think commodities are really have a great weight in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what do we need to take the path. And I'm inquiring there because I think we are really in a time in these present times when it's crucial to connect to something that's beyond us that we can't see. It may be one day science will be able to measure that. I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe it's another dimension. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it will
Mm-hmm.
be called crazy. I'm on the edge of that. I don't really care anymore, neither.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
has to be the years that come and allow us to grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that in maybe with your experiences you can add to that or
Mm-hmm.
deny it's like that, but maybe this balance that you're speaking about, the four-legged table, the
Mm-hmm.
us in equation with the body, soul, and the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
that really is what allows us to rediscover ourselves as a human species
Mm-hmm.
in relationship with everything. And we spoke about it already, but still I think this is the missing part, that because I haven't learned religions in my family of origin, so I was really free to believe or not what I wanted to.
Yeah.
But one, my mother's side was really Catholic, so I also absorbed a little bit from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then on my father's side, my Jewish people, they were hidden completely. So I think I was 8 years old when I heard someone saying something about the Jewish people, and I knew that they were partly Jewish, and I was like, you can't say that of a human. No, like when you come into contact with that, oh, but that's a human person. And
Mm-hmm.
we could say the same. That's a dog person, or that's a cat person, or that's a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is that what could be, if this is what we're looking for, what could be the first steps to take if someone
Mm-hmm.
haven't explored these paths?
Haven't explored these paths. I mean, like you said, it's about curiosity. I think, um, for anyone who's listening to this, right? They can, Google search and find a ton of information on ancestral medicine or, practitioners of this work. Um, but I think the first step is being willing to be curious about it
Oh yeah.
and, to recognize that um, being in relationship with your ancestors, it doesn't have to be a religious thing. It can be, but the way that we view it, at least in the way that I work, is that um, our ancestors are just our family. They're just no longer in their bodies. So, I don't feel that there's no difference for me having a conversation with my sister who is living and having a conversation with my great 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 grandmother who is no longer in a body. So if you grew up, um, in a family where there are a number of restrictions on, and it feels like, well, am I dealing with ghosts, or is this some sort of witchcraft thing, or is this, just think of it that way. It's talking with your family, just your extended family.
Absolutely.
And but having those, like you said, having a connection to something that is greater than ourselves, I think it helps us to right size the moments that we're in, right? Like we are, as humanity right now, is going through it. We are really going through it. I mean,
Yeah.
not even just, government wise, but, planet wise. We are going through it right now. Um, and so having a connection to something that is larger than ourselves helps us to, we can lean on the lessons from before. Um, we can lean into the gifts and the powers that can help us navigate what we're going through right now. It might help, you know, having that connection with your people might help with the isolation that you might be experiencing. So, yeah, I say do what I call a sacred Google search.
Oh, yeah.
See what comes up under ancestral medicine and see if anything in there resonates. Um,
Mm,
reach out and talk to people, even if it feels a little bit like, I don't know how this is going to align. Have that mindset of, I just want to get to know my people. I just want to know where the power is. Where does this gift come from? For me personally, um, the more I worked in the early days, the more that I worked with my ancestors, the more I understood who I was. Like I started to make sense to myself. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's where this comes from. And that's why I, X, Y, and Z and blah, 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 because I would learn about it from a great great grandfather or, 7 generations back. So, getting a better understanding of who you are, it empowers you to show up as your whole self. It empowers you to see the connections rather than looking for the threats because you already feel anchored. You're with your people, they have your back, they're around you all the time. So, my suggestion, start with a little sacred Google search. And, you know, some people, I think they find that it helps to start with learning more about where their people are from. Maybe it's more practical like that, that you're like you said, that you learned, oh, there are Jewish people in my background, my DNA, shared this. So let me learn more about that, right? Be
mm.
curious, be curious. And,
Be
and
curious and follow the resonance, I think.
yeah, it's going to lead you to where you need to be, to develop those relationships. And it does. It all comes back to building community.
Mm,
It does. Because the more you build yourself up and the more you're backed by your people, the more you're connected to this earth, the more you expand the idea of yourself. Yeah.
yeah,
The
the
bigger your
idea of
community.
self that is inclusive.
Yeah.
The idea of self that sometimes can get a little hiding place in a tree.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fish. Or can get lessons from a bear.
Right.
I think so. There's yeah. I love this word and I love this work. And I'm on my side I'm beyond that part that I feel that I'm an imposter. So I know that I
Mhm.
have a gift and I'm there.
Yeah.
But I know that sometimes, like most of the times, with my clients and everyone, the mind is such a big, huge potential. And then one other thing that I heard you saying, you didn't expressively said that, but what you said meant to me that when we lose ourselves in the mind, it's really helpful to slow down
Yes.
because the Earth's time is slow. So nature has its own time. And I think in your life is also things have their own time, like the sticky note that took 8 years to arrive to you.
Mhm. It is. It's slow work. I mean, even it's interesting that you picked up on that, because on my website, what I say is the work that I do with people, one, it's all self-healing. That
Yeah.
I am not the one that's going to heal you. I'm going to provide you with the space to heal yourself and the tools to learn how to heal yourself, but also that it's slow medicine.
Yes.
If you are looking for the quick fix, like pop a Tylenol and I'm going to be better in 5 minutes, then I'm not the person. This is not the path, because it's very slow. It's lifetime, and
Yeah.
it's changing. Um, and the more that you, I think, sink into this work with your people, with yourself, the it's you're able to see the shifts forwards and backwards through time, but also it ripples out from you yourself, right? So as I become in better relationship with my ancestors, my relationships with the living get better. There's a ripple effect, but
Yeah.
it's slow, but you see it. You see it and you're like, huh, that's different. And then, me where I am now, I can look forward and backward and go, oh, that was the seed that was planted that led to this, and now it's growing. It takes a lifetime for a tree to grow, right? And so we got to think of ourselves in that way. This is not, our technology, things like, little TikTok shows are going to make you think that things can be resolved in 3 seconds or less, but no, lifetimes, life cycles.
Lifetimes, life seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a very special connection with the sequoia trees, not the
Mhm.
redwood one, but the giant ones.
Oh, the giant ones.
Yeah, they're both giants, but in their nature name, the Latin name says one is like the redwood, the other one is the giganteum. One is sempervivens, like is going to live forever, and the other one
Right.
is actually living longer. That's called
Oh.
giganteum. They
Mhm.
can live up to 3,000 years, but they are not so big.
Got it.
Anyway, so they
Mhm.
are not going to grow in just one lifetime. This is what happens. Yeah, just imagine 3,000 years and the tree can live so long. And there are the Greenlandian shark that they can live like 400 years.
Yep.
So I'm saying like, oh, that's like a grandmother shark.
Yeah.
What have they seen in the waters? That's like super
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're just like, bloop, our little lifetimes, but we're also, the more we connect, the more unlimited we are, like realizing I was like, oh, my ancestors are here. I'm like, this means that when this body for me expires, I will still have something that I'll be offering.
And you still have your community.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah, let's see.
Saying this is a beautiful
Mhm.
point where we can pause for today, if you agree.
Oh, I agree. I
Mm.
agree.
And for the communities, the present and the future communities, both in body and beyond the body.
Yes.
I think that's.
I love it.
Thank you
Wonderful.
very much, Erica, to being
Thank
here.
you.
It's a joy to speak to you, and I hope you enjoyed. You can look for your sacred Google search, and I hope you find yours.
Mm. Wonderful.
Thank you. Bye.
You.